So how did you actually like decide like not to do, for example, a groupie clanker and go for gdupi?
Because I think there was like no need to make a groupie clunker. I mean, I already have the OG collection of groupies. I do have like all, I don't know. I feel it's more groupie. It's more of a vibe when like in the meme coin context. It's
Right.
like it needs to be like stupid. It needs to be something silly. It needs to be something that people just laugh about and yeah, that's the main idea basically. Just like having the less serious side of my whole career, flourish with this project. It's literally just having fun with it and laughing about my creations, which is yeah, a nice thing to do.
Yeah, it's really funny like seeing gdupi, come about. First I saw it and at the time, I don't know when exactly, you launched it in the context of like Anon or what was the first one? Like Lum. Like when Lum came out on Clanker, I sort of
Mhm.
saw, okay, there's this thing Clanker, there's this thing Lum, like Ethernet was involved, but I didn't really like double click in anything. Like I wasn't involved at all. I wasn't really doing anything. And then when Anon came out, and sort of it was actually someone from like, working on Anon reached out about making an Anon colors collection with base colors, and we did
Mhm.
that, and it went pretty well, and
Yeah, super
everything like
good.
that. So yeah, so that put it on my radar, and then I just, Anon cast came out like the day after Anon colors or the day of Anon colors or something like that. I was like, oh, this is super cool, and then as a result of that, I was looking at like other clankers and stuff. So when did gdupi come out like relative to that? It was like maybe a few days after that or like a week after that or something.
No, I think more. It became tomorrow is going to be exactly 2 weeks. So November
Wow.
26th.
Okay. So very new. Yeah. So when I
Yeah.
saw it like coming around, I was like, okay, I know Jan. I like groupies. And I didn't know like, that's why I sort of asked earlier. Like I didn't know where like gdupi came from. I didn't know if this is like sort of an inside joke for like groupie stands or what was going on. And then also I still don't know what's the deal with like it's not just like gdupi ticker gdupi. It's got like redacted gdupi. What's the redacted piece?
Yeah, I think that's like how people kind of like refer to like stupid people on the internet.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I was like, this group is like literally just like silly, silly,
Yeah.
dumb. It's like the concept itself for the character is based on my trades on Solana, to be honest. Like I was trying so hard to like make good trades, maybe make a little money, like aping into shitcoins, meme coins, the TikTok meta, like whatever. And you just feel like so stupid after doing that. It's like
Yeah.
dude, I'm like trying to chase the next animal. I'm trying to chase the next TikTok trend. Like it just feels so dumb. My brother is an economist, and I always like he's like a big like stock guy, a businessman. And I always think about like, oh shit, he's like on the serious thing, and I'm like saying, hey, dude, you should like buy this dead squirrel. It's going to go nuts. It makes like no sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think this character is just like embracing the most stupid side of my art and also of myself because I lost a few a few thousand in the past weeks just trading shitcoins. So yeah, this was also a good way to like focus on something and not trade.
Yeah.
It's like okay, let's do this thing. Let's do it myself rather um than just you know gambling
You're
with
you're
other creations.
yeah, you're betting on yourself rather than trying to find, what stupid thing to bet on, basically. You at least, if it's going to be a stupid thing, you might as well have it be your stupid thing and maybe make it, stupid as a Trojan horse for actually not that stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, what was I gonna say? Oh, so yeah, I saw it and I was like, I like Jan, I like groupies. What's this Gadoopy thing? And I sort of, I'm not gonna lie, like I saw it like go by, and at the time, I feel like a lot of clankers were coming up, and so
Mhm.
like my default, because I was like, in a similar place as you, I'm trying to like, buy some interesting things, but in general, I've kind of like opted out of meme
Yeah, for
coins
sure.
for because they've been around, like you said, on Solana well before base sort of started to tick up a bit in terms of the activity. And like I just generally, like I had some dog with hat and I had some, Doge from yeah, I didn't buy it earlier or anything, but I've had it for, some number of years. I don't think I even have like I never bought like Shiba Inu. Like I've generally like tried to stay away from all of it. And then, so, I got in on a non, I bought Clanker token, and I really like, so there's like, there's a whole spectrum of these like quote unquote meme coins, and some
Yeah.
of them probably deserve different labels than others. So like Hire is another example of one that I actually really like. Like we made an investment
Mhm.
out of the Base Colors Treasury. I love the community. I think they're just like doing awesome stuff. And it's just much more than, just like a dog ticker or whatever.
I agree. Yeah.
And then you've got like DGen also. I really respect Yasik and what he's built, and like the tipping functionality was something genuinely new when they started doing it. So there's ones that definitely are separated on community. Like I know all of these dog coins or whatever have like some kind of community, but some of them have like communities that are just feel distinctly different, and they're also like doing things, building products or new sort of functions that are sufficiently different. And so, and I could be wrong, but I feel like that's happening. The more successful ones on base are more leaning in on things like that versus just like the pure meme.
Yeah.
But not to say that you need to do that. Like Dogecoin doesn't have that. Dogecoin's like, the most successful meme coin. There's not like, you know, Doge cast or whatever. People are
Yeah.
casting as dogs or whatever. So it's like, you don't need to do the utility. I don't think it just tends to be happening more on base. And so I'm down to, put some money in one with or without utility, but I'm just sort of like rattling off some of the ones that I've been involved with. But then I see, like 20 a day going off that are like, I mean, there's more than that, there's hundreds or thousands, but there's like 20 a day that are like coming on my radar from like
Mm.
people that I know alone on the feed. And at a certain point, I'm just like, default ignore. So I see gdupi and I'm just like, I think I probably like the cast or something, but just, I didn't go buy any or whatever. Probably should have,
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely should have. And then, after a few more days, I kind of see it like sticking around and boiling up. And I'm like, all right, at this point, most of the other ones that I saw haven't been boiling up.
Yeah.
And, so I'm going to, at some point I put a little bit of money into gdupi. That's just mostly like play money or whatever.
Mhm.
Not like anything big. And, I have to say, just like, now I think I tweeted or casted yesterday, like at this point, I could be a little off, but roughly speaking, I hold a bunch of Helvetica, which is this one that I launched, which has ended up sort of like being a little bit of a thing. And
Oh yeah.
then
Yeah.
I have just speaking to like the clankers. So I've got like a bunch of Helvetica because I launched it. I've got a decent amount of clanker because that's the platform and seems like, there's some logic to that one. And I like proxy and everything. And I like
Mm.
clanker. I've got some and I'm not trying to like shill bags here or whatever. I'm just like sort of giving context. However, if you want to pile into these bags, then by all means. But and then so behind that, I've got some Anon, which, like I said, I think that was the first clanker that I actually bought. And then behind that, I've got gdupi, and I just like seeing it in my wallet. I'm like, gdupi is fun, it's funny, and I just like the simplest possible take is just like I like gdupi, and I think people sort of underestimate with these meme coins that like or maybe people don't, maybe it's just me, but like you don't really need like you can have a thesis, you can be like, yeah, privacy is on the rise, and so a non-cast is going to be cool and a non's going to go up or whatever. But on the other side of that, I think some of these most successful ones, such as like Doge or whatever, it's just like people like the thing, and you don't have to be able to explain why. But
Mm.
if people like it, and as more people find out about it, they're going to be likely to like it as well. Then these things grow, and I feel like gdupi is maybe the only clanker that I've seen so far that is sort of uh, evolving and like continuing to do well, mostly off of people just liking it. Or would you sort of
Yeah.
contest that? And like, are there things going on that I'm not aware of that maybe people are bullish on, or is it mostly just like people like gdupi?
I mean, people likes it. Like I, to be honest, like well, I'm gonna read you like a small note that I put in my notebook like 2 months ago.
Awesome.
It says Solana token plus art. And I was like adopting if doing it on base. And then the points are serious artist plus fun idea. Then
Yeah.
character centered, makes you happy to see in wallet. And that's it, And to me, like I found out, so I came back to this idea a few weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, that's it, like some funny character that you want to see in your wallet because it makes you happy. By that time, I was holding a few animated coins, animated PFP coins on Solana, and I had them on Phantom Wallet, and they were animated, and I was like, oh shit, this is super nice, like
Hmm.
just getting into my wallet and seeing it animated. So yeah, I I mean, I am the artist, of course. I am alive and I'm doing like content and I'm doing like putting the character in like new situations and stuff. But I think the key in everything that's happening is that people just vibe with the character. You know, it's something that you can't even like plan, to be honest. Like I wasn't 100% sure Goop is gonna was gonna like, you know, work
Yeah, of
as
course not.
culture like, yeah, character. I just like put it out and then people vibed with it. People started to talk like groupie, and then they started to like have all these like phrases and quotes and like doing memes and stuff. And I just realized after launching it, how much of a cultural value it has, you know, because people connected with it. So yeah, as you said, it's just people vibing with the character, liking the art, liking the character, and just liking the community in Telegram. You know, there's a lot of people there. It's just active every day. Dude, I go to sleep, I come back, and like people is just vibing all day, which is incredibly nice, especially for meme coins. You know, I was on Solana, and that place is a mess. Like, there's a lot of like people just like causing and like, yeah, it's like I'm a whole different world. On base,
A little
it's
bit of a
well,
negative, a little bit
yeah,
like a
exactly.
negative, like more like sort of conflict oriented vibe.
Exactly. Like,
I mean,
yeah, I don't know
people
if it's
were
like
like putting
negative.
themselves in like dog cages on the live streams, right? So like I figured
Yeah.
things got to a certain point there that it was a little out of hand.
Yeah, exactly. And also like the chats, they're usually like pump this shit or I'll kill you. You know, and it's like, no, we don't need that. Like
Right.
there's no people
Well,
like saying like pump this shit on the Telegram. You know, it's like, oh man, I love this image of like groupie doing something. You know,
right.
it's like different vibes for sure.
And that's downstream of you, basically. That's like if you know, what you react positively to, what you are putting out
Mm.
there yourself, people kind of have to take the lead. And if they're, about this different sort of style, then they're not going to vibe with what you're putting out in the first place. They're not going to sort of like get involved, or if they do, they're going to sort of like quickly leave. And so you end up sort of filtering for people who are like similar to you. Although, with that, I imagine there's sort of some like price volatility. Like people come in, like I'm sort of thinking about some of the stuff myself. It's sort of, it just feels it's a little bit uncharted territory for me personally, where it's like these things rip both up and down. And it feels like even if you do nothing wrong, if it just has you know, like a lot of these things just sort of go, eventually they sort of like go down. However, there's a bunch out there that, like you take like Dog with Hat, obviously it's one of the, biggest ones, or on Solana at least. And like it completely ripped out of nowhere to whatever level it got to. And like, it's not its all time high or whatever, but it kind of settled. And like maybe, it's just so hard at a certain point, you like ask enough questions, you sort of have to be predicting like what crypto is at its nature and like where all of this tokenization ends. And I think for me personally, I don't pretend that I have an answer to that. And so you can't really have an answer as to like how all of this unfolds. But basically, the fear is that like you do this thing and you have a lot of fun. A lot of people have a lot of fun, but in the end, a lot of people buy high and like end up losing a lot of money on it. And so that sort of like concerns me a bit. But I think as long as you sort of, communicate the right way
Mhm.
throughout and you don't do the obvious bad things like rugging everyone or whatever, then, it's, I don't know, like
It's
people
the
have short-term
nature.
memory.
It's the nature of tokens. It's the nature of
Yeah.
crypto. Everything that goes up must like go down at some point,
Yeah.
or maybe not. You know, like who knows? But like the what you have like a shirt, it's like it goes to zero. You know, it's like every time I buy whatever coin, even if it's like something I really believe about, like let's say like Clanker or Anon, whatever, we already know that it like it can go to zero, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's like the whoever buys it for sure.
Yeah.
But I
It's the
have like
buyer's
this
responsibility
super,
to a large degree.
yeah, I have this
Unless
super,
the seller does something, I mean, not the seller, but like the creator does something really irresponsible, such as breaking a norm, such as don't completely rug everyone out of nowhere, then
Mhm.
like as long as you sort of don't do things that are, known to be bad, and even still, it's the buyer's responsibility. You have to sort of evaluate the creator and
Mhm.
determine that they're not going to be someone who's going to rug you or whatever. So anyway, you were going to say,
Yeah, definitely. No, I was gonna say that I lived through like a very let's say, weird situation during 2021. I was just releasing my art collection, the Peaceful Groupies. It's like a 10K PFP project. By that time, I was just experimenting, just like now, on Web3. Um, put this collection out, expecting nothing. Somehow, it got caught like by everybody out there. Like everybody and their mothers were shilling it.
Huh.
Um, there's like this group of people who bought in a lot of groupies for a lot of money, and so the collection sold out. They were like pushing me to like do stuff, and I was so like shocked by everything. No, like it was like a whole success for me. My art started like picking up, and I was so happy about it. But then, of course, people love you on the way up. But what happens when things start to go down? They
Right.
hate you. They hate the art. Everything you do is like stupid. Everything I tried to do like for the community was like, no, you shouldn't be doing this. The floor price is down like 2 ETH or something.
Right.
And there's like, yeah, I had like my whole 2022. I had so much opportunities to do like a lot of stuff in my life thanks to groupies, and I traveled everywhere and I met a lot of great people, great groupies. But at the same time, I was dealing with like this kind of depression because I knew that sometimes I would just post something on Twitter unrelatable to groupies, and like people will be like, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing? Like posting your food or like whatever. Let's go back to
Right.
work and like put the floor out." So
Right.
I think I'm already like I've been in those trenches. I've been like feeling like shit just because of those people, and I am experienced with all of this. I know, and I was prepared. If the token went wrong,
Right.
nobody bought it. Like I was
Right.
prepared to be like the stupid guy who tried,
Right.
went well. So people is like, oh, he's a genius. I'm not really, I'm just experimenting like everybody else. Of course, gdupi, it's like something I don't plan to like sell or rug or anything. I'm just like having fun, and it's a sustainable way to have fun as well because of the clankers fees. So I am basically I can be paid to like keep on creating cool shit for it, and that's
Yeah.
the plan. The plan is just to do cool stuff for groupi and also let it just live by itself. I don't want it to be like this coin that depends on me to be like pumping it or whatever. I
Right.
want truly like I think it has a potential for people to adopt it as like base most iconic character, because what do we have right now? Like we have Brett, which is like one of the first ones, but at the same time, it's like it's a secondary character in Matt Fury's world. Matt Fury is not even involved with it, and it was not fairly launched. So I'm like, okay, it's time for two artists to get into like these leagues, So we kind of like set the goal to flip Bread just as a funny mission to
Huh.
have. Which for sure it's not gonna happen like in a week. But it might happen, and that's kind of like what we are in it for, like we are everybody like
Flip Brett.
pushing, yeah, just to be not flip bread in terms of like price, but like in terms of like culture, which I
Right.
think we are archiving. There's like people doing memes on gdupi and like sharing the word and like doing stuff, and yeah, I think it's just like peak based culture. And yeah, the idea is to have fun with it, like not only me but like everybody in the community involved, just have fun with the character.
Yeah, I mean, there's also like, both of us have spent a good amount of time on Farcaster. We're on Purple People podcast here. And, I think Farcaster is like dominated in terms of like the L2s by base. Not to say like, I'm not saying that it's like a bad thing. It just like kind of happened and is what it is. Um, but base, like, so base is bigger than Farcaster, but Farcaster isn't really like bigger than base. There's not a whole lot of other, I mean, I'm sure there's people on Farcaster who are interacting on other chains and whatnot, but like there's just and other L2s, but there's just like not a whole lot. And so I sort of think of Farcaster as this like sort of growing circle within a larger growing circle of Farcaster. Maybe I mean, sorry, Farcaster as a growing circle within a larger growing circle of base. And maybe there's a sliver of the Farcaster circle that falls outside of base, but like not too much. And so I think Brett, like it seems to me, I don't really know anything about it, but seems to me that something that is sort of developed outside of that Farcaster circle
Mm,
within the base circle, and somehow it's huge, and yet I don't really know like anyone who has any.
mm.
So these must be like sort of Twitter shills or whatever. Like I don't know. It's
Yeah,
just like
that's
sort of a
literally the sentiment from the people. You know, everybody says the same. Like, I never met a bread holder.
yeah,
But they
and
also
not
like
like
it was a
they
different
obviously
time.
exist, but
Yeah, for sure. I think it just came out in a different time. You know, it's just like it feels just like the complete opposite of base culture for me. It was
right,
launched with like a wide list, so there's like some hand-picked people who bought in for cheap. You know, it's just like a weird vibe. I'm not like trying to fill anybody's bags or anything.
right.
You know, it's all good. It's just like a weird vibe. So yeah, that's why we are trying to take over. You know, Clanker makes it super fair and easy for people to launch tokens, and so I think that's a pretty big thing. You know, it's just that's what we need because we have seen a lot of rugs in Pump.fun, for example, in Solana.
Yeah,
Not as many in Clanker because you can't, right? The only tokens you get are from the fees you get for the volume traded, which means
right.
you need to have some sort of motion to be able to have your own tokens to be able to rug. So um and even like that you can't really do it. So I think that's like what I like the most about Clanker. It's just super easy and fair to do it.
Yeah, no, it's I really enjoy it as well, and I know they upgraded from like the V0 contract to the V1, which I
Mm.
think fixed some things or helped some things at least, and I think they're still trying to sort of figure out how to uh mitigate issues with like bots and snipers and whatnot.
Mm.
But if the bots and snipers sort of like get to it and then it goes up and then it kind of crashes, you sort of get like a fresh start like a few days after the fact or whatever. I don't know if that's how gdupi worked or if there was like a little bit of a crash for to get some of the bots and snipers out or
Mm.
whatever. But it's like, it's hard to read into all of it. But generally speaking, I think Clanker is very cool. It's always good to be sort of like the first of something. So it seems like, obviously other people have come out with like token launchers, you tag a bot or whatever, but seems like it's sort of, they definitely have a challenge to, stay the king of the hill or whatever. But and it's it's even maybe early to call them that, but I would say between Lum and Lum also kind of feels like one that kind of like grew out of Farcaster, but no one really got involved with, and it grew into Twitter, and then Twitter sort of ran with it. It's like sort of the
Yeah.
same crowd, and I'm kind of seeing this now. I've been tweeting a little bit more about Helvetica, and like there's just this crowd that I'm sort of like not familiar with that is just people just like going off. Like I don't know, like people on Farcaster are trading meme coins and whatnot, but it doesn't feel like that's like their
Their main thing,
primary
right?
thing. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
they're talking about like interesting things, and they happen to be, you know, severely addicted to their phones, trading meme coins all day. But like, not only that, like they're also like, building something on the side or doing something.
Mm.
So there's this whole like world of just like pure speculators that's kind of interesting. I feel like so Lum kind of got picked up by that maybe, and then like people felt like they missed it. I saw like someone had that take on the
Yeah.
feed, and I was like, that sounds about right. And then Anon felt like one that was like a lot of people on Farcaster got behind, and now gdupi I think is like sort of in a category of its own, leading the pack, and just like this is just fun. People like looking at it. And is it, I have it in I've got like basically one of every wallet at this point, but I've got the gdupi in like a rainbow wallet, and I don't think it's like a dynamic PFP or an animated
Yeah,
PFP
it's not
in there.
happening.
Where
Yeah.
is it? Where is it like animated?
In Phantom you can see it animated, but to be honest, I use Rainbow as well, so I don't.
Okay,
Um, but
it's
I'm
nice
trying
to
to
know though.
persuade Mike, to try and bring animated PFPs to Rainbow.
Yeah, I would be honestly like pretty surprised if he doesn't, just because they've been so ahead on so many things. Like if people like it, they'll do it, I feel like. And so they were like way ahead on NFTs. I think they've been ahead in general on like making meme coins look good. Like you can see, at least you can't see the animated maybe, but you can see the photo. Like it picks up, the information more quickly, I think, than some other wallets. So I feel like they will probably do that unless there's some really good reason not to. But yeah, so the other sort of question I had is, actually just going back, rewinding to like gdupi, you didn't want to do groupies. You wanted to sort of create this character that was like representative of like you trading and how that felt and everything. But like, what was the actual, like, when did you create the art? Like, how long did it take? Were there like iterations on it? Can you talk about like the origin story of the art itself?
Yeah. So I created gdupi maybe a few months ago. I made this character just like silly one and minted it as a free mint on Sora. Because I had like this groupie memes collection on Sora that when I was just like doing some funny stuff, I'm putting it out for free. Groupies was one of them, and it did actually well. Like I think 1,800 were minted or something. Um, but then
This was on
I
like the new Zora app where it's like the mobile app, or this was the old Zora?
yeah, the new Zora, yeah.
Right.
Um, and then I kind of made like another version. Like I came back to it because by the time that I made it, then I did like those notes in the sketchbook that I was telling you about. And so I had like a sketch on a few things that I wanted to retouch. Um, but I basically just made the character more like simpler, more like bold lines and took out some stuff and just like made it like more easier to recognize, like the shape of the head and stuff. So it was really like just two iterations of it, just the first one and then like this second one that ended up being the final. But yeah, basically, I have the like coming back to the peaceful groupies, they are like 10K characters. They're kind of like a a kind of characters, it's like, what is it? A groupie. And like this one is not a groupie, but it's like one like specific character, as if one groupie fell out of the bed and like it's like
Dropped as a baby.
yeah, exactly. So it's like one specific one, which is like a good approach because I'm now like focusing on this story, the story of how gdupi was born in the trenches and how he's like getting out of it basically. So it's been fun to build the story around it. But yeah, that's the story about the character. To be honest, like I didn't like overthink it about it too much. I just wanted to do something and I wanted to do something silly, and I knew that thinking and like perfection it to a point that I would feel like super confident about it wouldn't work, because this is not about that. This is about the meme, about the funny thing. So I just did it like super quickly and decided to make the clanker. And yeah, that was it.
Are there like recurring things that now 2 weeks in, you're like, okay, I'm having fun here. People are digging it. I think the best things for me to do right now, and I'll continue to learn and experiment, but like the best things for me to do right now are like X or X and Y or X and Y and Z, that like, you talked about like sort of like fleshing out this story, which, you didn't have like sort of, it's not like it was like a fully baked story that you're like revealing over time. You're sort of like creating the story, retroactively. But
Yeah.
that's totally yours to do. Like it's your character. Um, and so like, are there other things like, so I think one of them seems to be building on the story. You talked about like sort of creating, art of gdupi in like sort of different environments. Is there like sort of, a few like lines that you're returning to, or are you just kind of like doing the next best thing you can think to do all the time?
I think I am just trying to do the best I can. Um, there's just so much you can plan. Like there's a point where you need to stay flexible for your ideas to work. Because
Yeah.
if you stick to a plan, you end up going for something that people might change the sentiment about it in the middle. But if you just like go straight to it, then maybe you are working on a side. I don't know. Let's just make a silly example on a side where you can like put your photos and like add the groupie's face in it. But then maybe that's not what people want, and you are like too locked in, like trying to put it out and ship it, and you forget about the sentiment in general of the community.
Right.
So what I'm doing is basically just like doing what I like, which is drawing. I have fun drawing groupie and like thinking of stupid ideas to put him on. But also seeing in what ways can I serve the community. Um, because like when I launched Groupie, I was my mindset was, okay, I'm ready to work on it if it does well, and I'm also ready to take the bullets if it does not, and like people hate me. It's
Right.
like I was playing my reputation in there, because it's like this phrase, like if it goes well, you're a genius. If it goes wrong, you're a stupid ass. So it's like
Right.
um I had the blessing that people actually adopted it. So I was super thrilled, and I was also prepared to be uh working on it all day. So as soon as it was out and I saw that people actually cared about it, I just reached out to Charlie, my friend. He's a great developer. He developed the first peaceful groupies site with me. So we had this experience working together in 2021. We've grown so much in the middle. He has become better, and also me. So it's like great to meet again and work on this. So we started doing the site, and then we were like, hey, it would be nice to have this meme generator where we can upload all my assets, all the pieces I do, so people can remix them or like make their own pieces with it. So it just started evolving. We just started like brainstorming on stuff, and we are building on top of gdupi, and of course having in mind what the community wants. I think that's the key, like doing what I can for the people that's supporting it. And yeah, that's the way that we're gonna be happy. I'm gonna be happy by drawing my silly little gdupis every day, and people is enjoying them. And I think that's all about it. That's how we grow. And of course, like staying flexible in the middle, if whatever comes out, like being able to execute it. For example, yesterday there was like this anon tweet saying they found the next chill guy, but it's redacted, and I was like, oh. And I just like immediately just did a gdupi chill guy to answer that tweet. So it's kind of like you need to be in the right moment at the right place, and be able to take action on it, be prepared. So I think that's what I've been doing like all these years, preparing myself to be prepared for those situations. So I'm glad this is playing out.
Yeah, I like what you said in terms of your approach at launch. I felt the same way with base colors, where I was like, I don't know, like, I want to launch this. I want to do it right in a way that I feel like could do well long term, where I wouldn't have to do anything more. Like, I feel good about what I put out, and I'll just leave it out there, and I'll be like sort of proud of what I did. And it is what it is, and it's out there. If anyone ever wants to sort of like pick it up, even if it doesn't have a successful launch, it's just like it exists and anyone can get involved at any time. But then I was
Hmm.
like, and so like if it, but it, that said, if it's like not a successful launch, like doesn't get a lot of attention or whatever, like that's fine. I probably won't like push, on like a rope or whatever. Like it's I'm not gonna like try to like I'm not like committed to working on this if people don't really like it. I'm gonna sort
Mhm.
of gauge the reaction, and then even regardless of the reaction, I'm gonna see how I feel based on that reaction. Like the reaction could be, you know, really strong, but I'm just like, even though it's a good reaction, I don't really feel like working on this anymore. Or it could be like not that strong. I could be like, man, you know what? I really want to like keep building here and keep working on this. And what ended up happening was like it was like I think like a pretty solid reception. And I like shocked myself with how much I wanted to just like keep doing more with it and like keep building it out. And it sounds like you went in with that same like sort of open mind of like, I have bandwidth to spend all day on this if I want to.
Hmm.
And I also don't need to work on this at all anymore if it doesn't, if I don't want to. And whether or not you want to is, partly based on the reception, but also partly based on like your reaction to that reception, because there's like a bunch of it's not like a very clear cut like one or a zero, like a black and white thing. It's like, there's a reaction that's sort of between 0 and 100, and not as quantifiable as like you don't get an actual number for it. You sort of have to like feel it out, and then that's going to make you feel like sort of a certain type of way. And it sounds like the way that you felt about it is like this something is sort of like hitting here, people are liking it, and I'm going to keep working on it. And so it sounds like it's all going like really well so far. So maybe just rewinding a little bit even further. We've obviously talked a lot about gdupi, but some people probably are going to listen and like know you from the feed and like no groupies, no gdupi, but not really like know much about you personally. And like we've connected a little bit previously, so I have like some idea of some things, but I think it would be great. Like I usually do this actually like earlier in the episodes, but I think, better late than never. It would be cool just to hear about like your personal story. We talked about like sort of the groupies chapter and like the roller coaster that was, but before all of that, like as early as you're willing to start, like what's just your personal story for people who just like kind of want to get to know you better?
So, yeah, I actually, let's go. Like, I'll go to, like, a little speed run of my life.
Okay.
I always wanted to be a musician, but my parents didn't want to. They didn't like music too much.
What
So,
kind of musician?
guitar, I wanted to play guitar so bad. I was
Nice.
big Red Hot Chili Peppers fan since I was like 6 years old, and so I always wanted to play guitar. But I guess they didn't want like noise in the house, so I stick to just drawing, which is like the silent art. Listening to music myself and drawing. Um, and I don't know, it always felt so natural to me to do so. I think, when I was a kid, I was just like drawing my favorite characters, such as Pokemon or Digimon. I was like super obsessed with characters in general. Then later on, I became way more obsessed with The Simpsons. I thought it was like the ultimate character design. Just
Mm.
the way they adapted it to like every people in the world. They could make like Tom Cruise or whatever, and it will fit the characters. But then it wasn't until like 2017 when I got into like graphic design. And I started to take my art more seriously, because at some point I just wanted to be an illustrator. Just like my dreams were like, yeah, I hope one day I could like work for Nike or Adobe or like something like that, just working for other people. But then at some point I was like, oh, maybe I am more than that. Maybe I can do my own thing. And I started doing my first characters, because I was deep into like character design. I was designing this character that was kind of famous in my university, which was based on myself. I was never smiling, so I made this character that it's a bad face. It's literally an ass, and I was having so much fun with it, like making like poop mustaches and stuff like that. And people recognized it all over the university, and that was like my first, let's say, like successful character.
Where was
Um,
university?
in Chaco, Argentina. Chaco is
Okay.
one province in the north of Argentina. I think
That's
it's the
where you're
middle.
born and raised, Argentina?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, just like another university. I was studying graphic design there. But I only did so for a year, because that year I traveled to Europe for about 10 days vacations. And I realized that there was like a whole world outside. And I was like, oh, damn, like I need to come back here. So when I came back to Argentina, I started working to save money. Then after that year, I dropped off the university. I only did 1 year of graphic design. And I moved to Paris at 20 years old. Um, and then that year, I spent a year in Paris just working at the hostel at night, like 3-4 days a week, and then locking in and drawing all day. And I think that was when I took my art way more seriously, and I started like putting my whole heart and soul into it and getting better at it, because I was doing it every day. And obviously trying to, make my way into working as an artist. So I started working as doing like album covers, just going and like hitting up people on Reddit. I've been kicked by so many subreddits just because I was like posting, like hire me as your album cover illustrator or something like that. Um, and then that was my first like hustle that I was doing. That's how I found my first works online, doing like some drawings for like $50 or so. Then I came back to Argentina, keep on working. Then I saved money, and the next year I been to Berlin. I lived in Berlin for like 6 months. I was super depressed there. Didn't do much more than drawing and the usual. But then when things started to go well, COVID actually came, and I had to go back to Argentina. Uh, but it was a blessing because when I came back, I stayed at my girlfriend's house and we were all day together. And somehow I was tattooing a lot. That was like my main gig by that time. I was doing hand poke tattoos. It took me like 5 hours, and I was charging like the equivalent of like $1-2. So at some point, I was like, "Yeah,
You
fuck
were
this."
doing you were doing giving someone a tattoo for 5 hours and charging like $2 for it.
Yeah,
Wow.
literally, like that was the only way, and I didn't even have like many clients either.
Is that
Um,
like the market for it down there, or like
I mean, I was like super. It was I was doing at my girl's house. You know, it was like super not
informal?
professional. Yeah,
Right.
also like hand poke. There was like no other doing hand poke in my city, so it was
Right.
like I don't know. And I wanted the experience, so I was just like doing it for cheap.
Sure.
Um, but I was like, no, I need to make money on internet. I need to go back into internet and just like lock in. And I saw this post about somebody selling prints, like digital prints for Ethereum. That's like what my interpretation of it, and it blew my mind. It was like I was deep into like crypto since 2017, where I started like getting familiar with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and this just felt like the perfect intersection between art and technology.
Yeah.
And literally, that was it. Like I saw that Instagram post, I went into Super Rare. I tried to apply there, but then yeah, it was super difficult. So I went into like Reddable. I started my whole career because because I saw that post, and that took me where I am. I mean, that was in late 2020s. And I think Web3 really helped me like legitimize the fact that I'm an artist, not just an illustrator that would ever like just work for other people, but I'm actually doing my own thing, and people is willing to pay money for my own creations, to collect them. And so I was introduced to the art world like that, you know, having collectors, being able to interact with them, connect with them in a deep way, meaningful ways. Also, you know, later on, I was traveling and meeting them. To be honest, like living the dream. So yeah, the I'd say like the quarantine and just being again ready for the situation when it comes. You know, it was the right time, and I was ready, and I went all in. And that's how I got started in NFTs and Web3, and like yeah, since that moment, I never left. I've been like terminally on chain and online for all those years.
Yeah, it's a super cool story. And I feel like there's a huge rabbit hole probably to go down on like the character building side of things, just given that you had this interest since you were like super young with Pokemon and Digimon, and then
Mm.
like sounded like you were kind of obsessed with The Simpsons. And I feel like I can see like the Simpsons vibe in like groupies, not
Oh
in
yeah.
that like they look similar necessarily, but I feel like you could make like Tom Cruise into a groupie, and like sort of in this like universe. And I just feel like you're like, it's always cool to see someone doing something that they've demonstrated like obsession with for a long time.
Yeah.
Especially if it can be like since they were even a kid. And so I feel like you're doing like exactly the right thing that you like are meant to be doing, which is just very cool. Like you talk about, last couple of years was like, aside from getting a bunch of crap from people on Twitter, probably, besides that, sounds like you're kind of living the dream, like you said. And it's just cool to hear all of that. And obviously you're pretty young. I don't know how old you are exactly, or if you want to share, but it's like, you've got a long, a lot of prospects in front of you as well to continue just working at this craft that's like your obsession.
Yeah, man.
And like with, yeah,
Mhm. Sorry.
but
No, I was saying I'm 27 years old, so I'm definitely considering myself young enough, and I'm just like blessed to be, you know, able to set this ground for my future. I guess that's how I see it. There's a lot that happened in these past years, but at the same time, it's just like the start of my whole career. It's only been like 4 years since I've been in this space and like considering myself like a true artist. So
right.
and like doing stuff with that in mind as well just changes the whole approach. And And yeah, I think it's just like the start of everything, to be honest. I'm just like settling this ground for the future Jan to be able to hopefully do more sick stuff, do more and do better. But yeah, definitely like young, the young kid. It's like super proud of today's young. So that's something that just warms my heart and like keeps me going, you know?
Yeah, I like to I forget what the exact I had this like in sort of a cleaner little one liner, but the gist of the thing that I try to remember a lot of times is like when you're feeling down on, how you're doing, like you don't feel like you're doing as much or as going as far as like you wish, you compare yourself to your old self and see how far that you've come. And then on the other side of that, so that's like, the young Jan looking at current Jan and being like super proud of yourself. But then if you get like sort of too full of yourself or whatever, you look at how far you have to go. And like you can always sort of like use, where you want to be in the future, basically, or where you think you can get to in the future, even if it's not like a specific destination, just like generally, knowing you can do a lot more. Basically, people look ahead and they know how much more they can do, and they're like, man, I'm not getting there fast enough. And I think when that's the case, you look at how far you've come, and it can be, help balance that out. And then on the other side of things, you get a little too full of yourself and you feel like you're crushing everything, and you can sort of reset and look at how far you have to go and how much more you can do. And just like sort of keeping both of those perspectives in mind and using them to check yourself and balance yourself, I feel like has been super useful for me. And it sounds like you sort of use, maybe not like the same exact thing, but I've sort of, you have a lot more ambition of what you can do as an artist, only basically 4 years in of doing, anything and with art and crypto, or even just considering yourself an artist, but at the same time looking back and seeing how far you've come and being pretty stoked about that. Yeah, so along those lines, like I wouldn't have an answer to the following question really myself. So I certainly wouldn't blame you if you don't. But do you have a like more defined, thing that you want to do in the future, or a number of things, such as like I'm just throwing things out there, but like creating a TV show or creating sort of like a Pokemon universe or a Simpsons or anything like that, or something that's different than those, or anything, or is it more of an open-minded, just do the next best thing? That's personally how I operate more so, is like what are the best things for me to be doing right now, and then just sort of trusting that it will all unfold in a way that works out well in the end. But not everyone operates that way. Some people have this thing that they're sort of striving towards. So I'm curious if you do.
Yeah, I always have like specific stuff that I want to do. Let's say an animated show, that's like a dream, of course. And when I launched Groupies, I was also like super thrilled about doing so. But at the same time, I'm always flexible and always open for whatever is the next thing that I should be doing. So I'm always ready to switch plans. But I want to do like a lot of things, man. I think right now, I would love to have small groupie toys, like art toys. I would love to experiment more with prints, different ways of printing. I actually got one super sick run of prints earlier this, like in September or something. I got scammed with it, unfortunately. Uh, but yeah, just like experimenting with like more physical stuff, I guess it's something that I really want to do. And at the same time, I had this whole idea for a game on base, and I had it for I think close to like 2 years already. It's a whole like collection that we made with my team. I truly spent like 50K just like building that thing a few years ago. But as you said, like it was not the right moment, it was not the right time. Um, and we just didn't do it. I have that idea, that whole thing, that whole project basically laid out. But it's just like there, waiting to have a moment, waiting to be maybe reviewed, maybe remastered or something. But I do have
Or
a
just
lot
the
of,
right time.
yeah, exactly. I do have a lot of stuff like that, in the drawers, just like stuff that I wanted to do, some stuff that I was like closer to doing it than others. And yeah, I just like want to keep it open. But like for now, I managed to come here to Los Angeles, and I have a few friends in here who also do art. So one of my priorities is also creating more physical pieces, which I've been doing actually. So I'm pretty happy about it. But way more physical pieces, get more nasty with the paintings and be more free and like have this conversation with the canvas, which sometimes is difficult when you're doing fully digital. Um, so yeah, I think to answer the question, I do not have like super specific plans. I do have some pointers, some stuff that like gets me going in like some sort of way, but like I try to remain open and always improvising and experimenting. That's my way of doing not only art but going about life as well.
Are there other like character types or like universes beyond like groupies, gdupi world that you really, really like a lot, or that you've been like playing around a lot with, or that you worked on a while ago and like sort of, moved on from, or things like that? Or do you like, as far as like the character side of things, do you like groupie and gdupi and want to sort of focus on building that out?
I do like groupies. I think they are, I think it's what I wanted to do and I managed to do it. And now I can like freely, because until a few years ago, drawing for me was like all the time it was like creating new characters, experimenting, and that's how you find the right one.
Right.
But when you find this character that you can easily put in like different situations, you can easily like represent whatever you feel with it. You can use it as this translator tool to basically translate your feelings, because I'm not like a great uh talking person or like putting things into words. I'm more like a visual guy. I feel I can talk better by drawing and by showing it with like a piece of work or art. So I do like groupies. I do have a lot of different characters. This project I was telling you about this game, that was meant to be like a whole new set of characters that we made. Um, yeah, I do a lot of stuff to be honest, but like groupies are the ones that are sticking the most and the ones that feel more iconic, make more sense. And at the end of the day, it's what I can draw easier and come up with ideas easier, which I think that shows that it's your true style. Whatever you do like easy, I think that is what you should be doing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And Yeah, I think it sounds like you are, I mean, obviously you're working, but you're doing exactly what you want to do the way that you want to do it, you know, and not in a rush, like where you have these certain like goals that you want to bring to fruition immediately. There's like sort of this balance between general direction that things that you think you want to do and constant experimentation and the flexibility to just sort of like take it all as it comes. And it sounds like so far in the last 3 4 years it's working out extremely well, if not even before that, to get to that point. And I am I'm very, regardless of like the individual thing, whether it's gdupi or whatever else, uh I am very I'm much more like, we had talked a little bit, but after this conversation I'm like just really confident in you and everything you're doing, and just very bullish on your future basically. And I got to go grab some groupies. Is there anywhere else that people, um like, if people are listening and they feel similarly to me, they can go get some gdupi, they can buy a groupie or two. Is there anything else that you would point them to in terms of your work, whether it's even like, a place to, or a way to buy a print or anything like that, or those are the two main things for now?
I think the three main things right now are: one, my Peaceful Groupies. That's the OG collection on mainnet. That's been dropped in 2021. Um, then gdupi is a great way to have an easy and cheap entry to this whole world, because you can basically buy either $10,000 or you can buy like $1 worth of it.
Yep.
Um, but then my Hypersub is where I do monthly art drops. Not gonna lie, this past month I haven't dropped anything, but I'm going hams on this month. I was like just to yeah to obsessed with gdupi. But yeah, my hyper sub, it's basically where I put some of my nice pieces, the pieces that I love the most, just one for month. I think it's a dollar price. It's about like 10, $15. And yeah, it's a great way to support. You also earn rewards when other people subscribe. So it's kind of dope. So yeah, those are like my three main projects, let's say, that I'm sustaining.
Cool. Well, that's plenty for people to get after. And like you said, with gdupi, it's super easy because it's just like, if you want to dip in for a few dollars, you can. If you want to dip in for a few $1,000s, you can. So it's flexible, and it's also new, and you're working on it a lot right now. So it's like fresh. So I think that's cool too. Um, but yeah, anyway, I know, we've gone well over the scheduled time, but it's been awesome conversation. And I think I'm a little, cautious about diving into like the nuances of, like creating characters and whatnot, because I'm just like way out of my depths, and I'm not even sure that I would have like sort of the right questions to ask. But I sort of have that earmarked as like a future conversation we could have to just like go as deep as possible on that, and like sort of get inside your mind on how you think about, like, not even, just talking about like sort of groupies or, other works that you've done, but using the references that you mentioned earlier, such as like The Simpsons or
Mhm.
Digimon or Pokemon, to sort of talk about that and see how you think in that realm. I think that would be super interesting, but I think that would also be a very long conversation. So we can put a pin in it for now.
For
Um,
sure.
Appreciate all the time again, and looking forward to following along with all this.
Hell yeah, man. It was a great time.
All right, man. We'll take it easy and go on gdupi.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for the invite. I had really such a great time. Very fluent conversation. So you just love to see it. Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. My pleasure. All right. Have a good one, man.
Yeah, have a good one. Peace.
Later.